Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Reform Dallas City Council District 11 Forum. My name is Soraya, and with me is Mark Wooten. We will be your moderators tonight.
Hey, sorry, everyone. Welcome to the forum. We also want to introduce Millie Dominic and Micah Moore, they're going to be helping us with timekeeping and technical duties. Reform Dallas is an informal organization of Dallasites committed to honest and transparent local government. Maybe you're one of the 12,000 members of our Facebook group. If not, we'd love for you to join us. We're also a source of independent journalism at reformdallas.io. There you can find the city's best guide to our local elections. Check it out. Once again, that's reformdallas.io. Reform Dallas does not make candidate endorsements. The point of these forums is to let candidates speak to all of us and take their best shot at earning our vote. We want this to be a fair and illuminating experience for everyone.
All right, thank you, Mark. We have two segments tonight. In the first segment, each candidate will introduce themselves, and then we'll move on to a series of prepared questions. For the second segment, we'll open it up to audience questions, so please be sure to stick around for that. Make sure to submit your questions to Millie Dominic in the Zoom chat panel anytime, and so we can call on you to ask your question to the candidates, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. One last thing, we will publish the recorded forums on the reformdallas.io website, as well as in the Facebook group. By participating tonight, you expressly give us permission to do that. And with that, here are your candidates in District 11. We have Janie Schultz and Hosanna Yemaru, who have graciously joined us tonight, and we appreciate all of you taking time out of your busy schedules, and welcome. Candy Evans did confirm she may be joining us later. Barry Wernick was extended an invitation but did not respond. And we shall go ahead.
All right, so candidates, here we go. We're going to give you 2 minutes for your answers. When your time is up, Michael will stop you. Janie, you have 2 minutes to tell us who you are and why we should vote for you.
Thank you very much. And I think this is a great format, and hopefully we'll be able to participate in lots of different things that you all provide. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Whiskey and Politics. You should vote for me because I'm a woman with the high morals, experience, and relationships to serve District 11 and the city better than any of my opponents. Serving as the Plan Commissioner prepared me to work with council. My 30 years of nonprofit experience prepared me to work collaboratively, and my equal number of years in business prepared me to serve my district well, understand the budget, and be able to learn at a very fast pace. I'm ready to go, and I hope to earn your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janie. We appreciate you being here. Next, we'll move on to Hosanna.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Just a couple of housekeeping matters. I have two very loud dogs. They will probably bark at some point. I apologize ahead of time. I'm also battling a cold, so my voice is coming and going. We're just gonna roll with it. But like I said, my name is Hosanna Yemaru. I'm a political organizer. I'm a working Dallasite, and I'm running to represent District 11 in the Dallas City Council. Like many of us, not originally from Dallas. I'm originally from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, but moved here with my family when I was about 11 years old and really grew up relying on our city services, everything from our DART buses to our libraries to our Office of Community Care. So I think it's really important to keep these services fully funded and available and accessible to Dallasites across our city. And I think it's important to have actual working families around the horseshoe to make decisions for other working families and to make sure that resources are allocated equitably throughout our city, and to advocate for people who have not had a voice around our horseshoe before. Sorry. So that's why I'm running, and I hope to earn your vote and look forward to answering your questions today.
Thank you so much. Do we have Candace on the line yet, or should we move along?
I'm muted myself. No, Candy is not here yet, so we're just going to go ahead and move forward.
Okay.
Okay. 1 second. Okay. All right, thank you, candidates. We're going to move on to questions here, the ground rules. We will ask a question and each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. Again, when your time is up, Micah will stop you. If we feel an answer needs a follow-up, we'll ask and give you a reasonable amount of time to respond. We're interested in your ideas and how you'll approach the job. And we will rotate the order in which candidates answer. So let's get started. For this first question, Hosanna, I'm going to have you answer first, okay? So the first question is an equity question. The City Council recently directed the city to establish its first ever racial equity strategic plan to guide the city. How do you define racial equity, and how do racial disparities in city services and investment specifically affect residents in District 11?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. When I think about racial equity, I think about a lot of things because I think that it affects us in housing, it affects us in transportation, it means zoning policy, it means equal access to opportunities through economic development, through jobs. So when we talk about racial equity, we're not talking about just one single thing, right? So one of the things that comes to mind, for example, is the fact that we have one of the most racially and economically segregated cities in the country. And it's really important that we are bringing more affordability into District 11, into the northern part of our city so that folks can live where they work, so that they can have access to quality transportation, access to quality city services. I think about the fact that this district specifically has parts of our district that are very well served and other parts of our district that are very solidly apartments that have not had their alleyways cleaned in years, that don't have trash pickup quite as much as other parts of the district do, that don't know who their council person is, who don't know how to access a lot of information, who don't have language justice because they don't speak English. And it's important that we are addressing every part of our district with the same lens and not just serving the part of the district that has the highest amount of voter turnout, right? So that's what racial equity means to me. And I don't think we can address racial equity without addressing housing, transportation, jobs, and climate justice all at the same time.
Hosanna. Janie, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I got it.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do with the answer to this question is actually continue the conversation that Hosanna brought up. So all of the points that she said are extremely valid, and it is exactly where we need to begin. And what we need to do from that point of acknowledgement and understanding and really getting into the data so that we can understand it and use it is to understand the equity piece of it and understand the engagement piece of it. So to me, equity means taking people where they are and not trying to make everything equal for everybody, but understanding where people are. And the way to do that then is through engagement. And I think we need to really, really invest in engagement of the members of our community that have been neglected because, as Hosanna said, they are not as active, they are not strong voters. And so how do you use that? So one of the things that I hope to do is work with the apartment management and apartment owners communities, as I did with the census when I was so deeply involved, to really engage their residents in the work to understand what they need and what is it that they want. I do not think that I'm the person to impose on anyone what is best for them. We need to understand where they are. And so piggybacking on what Hosanna said, we need to work with them directly to understand what will move them forward in our community and feel as equally engaged as many of the homeowners are.
Thank you, Janie. And I believe Candy went ahead and joined us. So in the interest of fairness, we're going to give Candy 2 minutes to introduce herself, but we're going to move on to the next question after that, if that's okay with everybody, colleagues. Thank you. And Candy, are you situated and ready to go?
I am, and I apologize. My darling, precious granddaughter popped over here, and I thought this was 8 o'clock. And I think you all know me. I've been a member of Reform Dallas, and I'm just thinking tonight. I won't cry of Stephen, and how much I wish he were here. I had promised him that I was running 2 years ago, and so. To Stephen, that's all I'm going to say. I think you guys know me, founder of Candy's Dirt, journalist, dirt digger, lover of Dallas, and hence that's why I'm here tonight. So thank you guys so much, friend. I'm so sorry that I'm a little late.
No worries, Candy. Thank you so much for joining us. And we asked one question already, but that's okay. We're going to move on to the next question and go on and proceed as planned. All right, we can go on to the next question. Mark?
Okay, so our next question is going to be about housing. So what would be your strategic plan to address the lack of affordable and workforce housing in the city of Dallas? Understanding that affordable means different things to different people. What does affordable housing mean to you?
Would you like me to go first or you?
We're gonna
Oh,
start with
right.
Janie.
So we're going to start with Janie on this
Sorry,
one.
I'm gonna mute then. There we go.
Ms. Schultz.
Okay, thank you. Yes. I mean, affordable housing is housing that people can afford without destroying their whole life trying to pay for it. And so what we do have to do is work in partnership again with the various property owners in our district. District 11 is 60% multifamily, and we do have a tremendous amount of workforce housing and of affordable housing that's what they call naturally occurring. That means that what we have to do is two things. One is we have to find ways to attract more housing that is actually subsidized and figure out ways in working with neighborhoods to be able to include that so that the subsidized housing is in fact spread throughout the city. We definitely want to work on that. And then the other thing that we have to do is make sure as District 11 continues to evolve, that people don't get displaced through that naturally affordable housing. So how do we take new developments that are happening and make sure that the people that are living there now can figure out how to stay in the district if that's what they want to do, and work with them. I do not think that we should impose things on builders. I think that they need to be partners in the solution, and they need to work with us from the very beginning to be part of that solution, because they want to build housing also at all different price points. That's it.
Thank you so much. We will move on to Ms. Yamira. Yamiro.
You had it. So a couple of things when it comes to affordability in our city, because I think that I want to address it two ways. One is the fact that what exactly does affordable housing mean? And I think that I think it's important that we're addressing the fact that yes, we need affordable housing, that if you are somebody with one job making $10 an hour, $7 an hour, that you deserve to have housing. But it's also the idea that if you are a Dallasite, if you are a human being, you deserve housing as a human right. And we should be making that a priority for us as we are developing across our city. Like I said earlier, I think it's really important to expand affordability into all parts of our city, and that means light touch density in District 11 as well. Just like Ms. Schultz mentioned, we have a lot of renters, we have a lot of duplexes, we have a lot of multifamily homes in our district. I think we need to keep expanding on that. And I think it's really important that we're also pushing back against property tax push out, because that is something that's really affecting folks in our district, especially seniors that are on fixed incomes. And I think it's important that we're going for protective zoning, making sure we're locking in people's tax rates so that they're not pushed out of their homes as they grow old. And I think that on top of that, I think we need to have a long-term development plan that's going to prioritize affordability and anti-displacement and gentrification models to make sure that as the neighborhood develops, the people who are actually here, Dallasites who are here, can stay in their homes and for the long term. And that means that we need to expand our tax base, really expand our tax base by investing into Southern Dallas, by investing into Western Dallas, and doing it in a way that gives that ownership to the communities that already live there through land trusts and through allowing people to have eviction assistance, allowing people to have mortgage assistance through the city as well. So that's what affordability means to me.
Thank you so much. And we'll move on to Ms. Evans.
Hi, Candy here. I basically agree with everything that Janie and Hosanna have said. I do think that housing is a huge problem in Dallas, and affordable housing, as you know, this is what I do. I don't sell real estate. I have a real estate license, but I write about it, and I publish a website that talks about real estate. And we have watched the average price of a Dallas home, and I mean a home, not, not an apartment or a condo, just go up to like 350 50 or $60,000, which is amazing. You used to be able to get a home for $150,000, $200,000 in Dallas, and now it's just gone up and up and up. And I do fear that we are going to see a lot of price increases in inflation across the country. And just today, you probably saw Steve Brown wrote that, we think in 2021 that we're going to see maybe a 12% increase in property values here. And that's going to hurt our taxes too. So everything you guys have just said is right on, and I agree with. I don't know if everyone should have a home, because I think homes are for people to take care of who can afford to take them. Let me tell you, homes are a pain in the neck to take care of. There's always something breaking, always something that needs to be fixed. But we definitely want housing. We want people in quality housing. I'm not sure we need to expand too much on the apartments. I think District 11 has plenty of them at 60%. Of course, we have this wonderful thing over here called Midtown that has been sitting there for 8 years. Nothing has happened to it. I'm so hoping that in the next round of city council, we can get more going there and get some beautiful housing there, both affordable and not. But here's something I wanted to tell you. I'm so glad you asked this question. Just today, we came across a story that we're going to be doing on Candy Sturt about a program that a realtor told me about, PFC, a private finance corporation that he's trying to do in South Dallas. And he has been waiting for the city for 1 year to come up with a board of directors.
It is time.
Uh-oh. I'm sorry. Am I over? Okay. So anyhow, the city of Dallas has been dragging its feet on putting this together. It's an opportunity zone for affordable housing. Over a year to find a board of directors. So today I called up the Kyle Hines.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. We ended it seriously.
I know I could talk about housing forever.
No worries.
Hopefully, we got to stick to that clock. So we'll move on to the next question.
Hopefully there'll be an opportunity for you to expand on that with the future question, Ms. Evans. I'm going to go on to the next question. And on this one, the answer order will be Hosanna, then Janie, then Candy. The question is, it's a zoning question. The Zoning Ordinance Advisory Committee has undertaken a review of our parking codes and is considering eliminating parking minimums altogether. Proponents say this opens up more land for development. Critics say that parking ratios are our code's only mechanism for balancing uses within a zoning district, and that this idea only works in cities with a well-developed transportation system. What are your thoughts on this? Hosanna?
Zoac is my favorite. No, I'm very supportive of, because they've been having this meeting for a year, and I think it's really important that we do look at parking minimums. I think it's important that we actually have parking maximums instead of parking minimums. I think that is a part of what we need to include in our housing plan and our transportation plan. I think it is extremely important to have a really well thought out transportation plan as well, so that we can give people the convenience of using public transit if we're going to get rid of parking minimums. But it's quite difficult to do that. It's kind of like the chicken and the egg. Like, you have to do one in order to do the next thing. And whenever you do have an immense amount of parking that exists, it just naturally disincentivizes people from using public transit. So I'm very supportive of that. And I think that we need to have simultaneously building a very strong transportation plan. I'm a big bus fan, so I think we need to really expand bus service in our city, build bus lanes. And this is a great time for us to be investing into green infrastructure, but we cannot do that if we're not willing to challenge parking minimums in our city. And also when it comes to housing, this is another opportunity for developers to have less costs whenever they're building housing. And that's going to help us bring affordability more into our city as well. So I'm all for it.
I keep doing it to myself. Thank you, Hosanna. I'm going to move on now to Jeannie. Jeannie,
Yes.
can you repeat the question?
No, I've got it.
Great.
Because ZOAC, I certainly attended plenty of ZOAC meetings, and I think the parking issue is even way beyond just the parking ordinance that they're addressing right now. The challenge with it is that I do believe that to a certain extent, developers are perfectly capable of determining for themselves how much parking they need. And they're not going to underpark because then people can't get there, particularly retail and office. And office, especially, they need to provide a tremendous amount of parking because that's part of the way that they get the leases, right? Is they guarantee parking for certain tenants. So I think that it's a really careful analysis that we have to work at. And I'm not sure that it needs to be done on, like, I don't want to use a sledgehammer when a surgical tool can be much more effective. At the same time, we don't want this to be neighborhood by neighborhood because actually it depends on the project, right? So if it's a mixed use project, then the parking is going to be a very different formula than if it's all residential or all office or something like that. So I don't think that it's a simple answer of getting rid of them entirely versus keeping them as highly regulated. I do think we're overparked in this city. I think there's opportunities for reductions, but I'm not sure that I'm prepared to completely wipe out the entire ordinance because we're also evolving. So a business that was once office now may move to residential, and you need a different kind of parking, map formula for that. So I do think that it's one of those answers that's much more complicated than people want it to be. And that's it.
Thank you. Candy, go ahead.
Well, I think I agree with Janie on this. It's very complicated. It's changing. It's evolving. One thing that we're seeing coming out of COVID is that businesses love the drive-through now because everyone wanted to do a drive-through, drive-through restaurant, drive-through pharmacy, drive-through get your COVID test, right? We're kind of like geared to this whole drive-through thing. And guess what? People were finding they like it. They think it's easier. It's much easier. It's faster for a mom who's got, things to do, work, kids to pick up, to go drive through and get something than to run into a store, park, go inside. So we're going to see a lot of changes. We've got people Ubering again, thank goodness. Hopefully, I'm also a big bus person like Hosanna. I'm like bring on the buses. I think they're great. I went through graduate school living on buses, and I'm just, I think that we should have more in Dallas, especially the Hoppa bus that was here when I first moved here. But anyhow, so I think that, that we need to look at it carefully, and we can't just make a blanket decision. Everything has to be looked at according to the development and according to the use and what people are going to do with it. Now, one thing that is a huge pet peeve of mine, and I'm just going to tell you because I feel like I'm at home with this group, even though we all yell and scream at each other all the time. I cannot stand the way parking lots do not connect. And let me tell you, we have to get on developers for this because it's a waste. You have to go into the street and then down the street, and then there's a stop sign or a stoplight, and then you got to turn around, do a U-turn when all you had to do was cut through the damn parking lot, So we have to do so much more in planning. And let me tell you, I'm going to be all over that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Candy. And I remember the Hoppa bus well.
Yes.
I'm going to move it and send it back over to my colleague, Mark.
Mark, you're muted.
Mark, you're muted.
I'm so sorry about that. Anyway, on to public transportation. So what changes, if any, would you make to the public transportation in our district to make it more viable for people who live and work here? And how do you feel about how it works currently?
And we're going to start with Candy on that one, and then we're going to go to Janie and then Hosanna.
Well, I am a bus fan. I am not a DART fan. I think DART is bleeding money, and I think we need to make DART be a lot more transparent with, where the money's going, what it's being spent on. I'm kind of excited about the subway, in Dallas. I mean, I will admit it's a shiny thing. It's kind of like a gorgeous house to me right now. I'm like, oh my God, we might need this for the city. It'd be so cool to have. I can just visualize the beautiful stations and everything. And I'm also, I have a subway card from New York City in my purse that I carry all the time. But we have to make sure it is cost effective. They're very expensive to build. Buses can do the job for a lot less money with a lot more safety. And I think that that's something we have to look at. So I think we really need to increase the bus service in the city. We need to improve on it. And we need to take a hardcore hardcore look at DART, see where they're spending their money, and if it's cost effective. Back when I ran 4 years ago, I even talked about possibly even pulling out of DART if the numbers aren't there. I don't see why we should continue to support it if we're losing money on it. So that's where the fiscal person in me kind of comes to foreplay. So here we go.
Thank you so much, Ms. Schultz.
Thank you. I think that there's a couple aspects. First of all, we have to understand that DART is a regional authority and Dallas only has a few seats on that board. We have excellent representation on that board, but we do only represent a portion of it. So that means that our DART members and we, the city of Dallas, have got to figure out how to work together with the other cities in the region and make sure that their needs are also being met so that they'll support the needs that we have. So that's step one. Step two is to really potentially look at the income opportunities within DART. My understanding is that the bus fare is a very small part of the budget. So what could it look like to try something like making it free? I don't know, that increasing ridership, all kinds of ideas in terms of increasing ridership. In this particular district, though, we have a really serious issue, and that is that we only have 27 DART stops in all of District 11. And so we must increase the routes. We have to look at the entire system within District 11. We have 0 DART rail stops. We're about to get one, and it does not have parking. And so that if we want District 11 to go to alternatives, frankly, we're going to either have to really rejig the DART bus system and use our residents as feedback to determine how to do that. The other point that we have to do is really look at alternatives such as pedestrian and biking, because District 11 is becoming more of a place where people want to live and work. So they could potentially even ride their bikes to work. That's from a district perspective. So yeah, that's what I've got.
And thank you very much. Ms. Yamiro, you're up next.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with a lot with what Janie said. I think it's really important. I always tell people that, I ride DART a lot, and it's one of those things that you show up at the DART stop and you don't know if you're too early or if you're too late because the bus rides on its own schedule and you're just like, all right, I'm just here for the ride. So I think it's really important that we are holding DART accountable when it comes to things like ridership metrics. I think it's really important to ensure that DART is servicing the communities that need it the most. I think that we should absolutely be looking into making DART free for people to have the ability to ride it. But I think on top of all of that, we just need to make public transit in our city extremely convenient and make it more convenient than driving, because we need to ensure that we are moving people off of cars and into buses and into trains. And the best way to do that is by investing into things like dedicated bus lanes, by investing into things like dedicated bike lanes, protected bike lanes, not just a line in the road, but actually protected bike lanes. Investing into things like walkability and 15-minute cities in our city, because it's not just about the fact that you have now public transit. It's about, is it going to get you to where you need to go? Is it going to get you to your job? Is it going to get you to the market? Is it going to be on time? Is it going to be affordable? And transit justice in many ways is what we talked about earlier. It's racial justice. In many ways, it is housing justice. So we need to be looking at this in a more intersectional and more holistic manner so that we can solve the problem at the root. And in a more simplistic way, we just need to have a transportation plan to begin with, a comprehensive transportation plan in the city. So that's what I would like to see from DART and public transit in our city.
Thank you so much, Asana. And we're actually doing pretty good on time. I am mindful of everybody's time, and we want to try to wrap this up as close to 8 o'clock as possible. And I want to remind everybody real quick, if you do have a question for the candidates, please enter it in the chat. You can only send it to Millie Dominic at this time. So if you want to submit a question, you can go ahead and do that. And we'll be moving on now to their next question. This is a question about Valley View, everybody's favorite mall. Valley View sits blighted and waited for development, while Dallas is facing severe housing shortages. Why is it stalled? And Valley View is only one of several grandiose planned developments that have gained approval but later failed to materialize. Should the Plan Commission and Council authorize hearings to determine proper zoning for developer-specific PDs that stall out and replace them with the mix of standard zoning districts that are not so tied to specific development plans? And I understand that's kind of a long question. I'm happy to repeat any part of it if need be. And for this one, I'm going to have Janie answer first, then Candy, followed by Hosanna.
Thank you. This is my favorite question. So first of all, we're going to talk about Valley View, but we're going to also talk about the bigger picture that you asked about PDs. Okay, Valley View has not stalled out. That is a myth. It is not correct. In fact, there has been tremendous progress made. The first thing to understand is that PD is just now beginning its 8th year since it was adopted. Okay, and in that time, the other thing that you need to understand, let me lay out a few facts. First of all, it was established in 2013 it started with Council Member Linda Coop, and then it went on to Council Member Kleiman, who've been driving it. There are 450 property owners in that area. So this is not one, it's not like Legacy or the Star or something like that, where one owner owns a tremendous amount of the property. It's all a cooperation game. And so the key in the next stage of leadership is having someone who can get everyone to work together. We've made tremendous progress on the west side of Montfort with the new 600 new apartments. We've got a new hotel. The Galleria is making progress. Montfort's going to be a complete street. The 3 major developers of the mall property are working cooperatively with each other because they had really complex parking arrangements that were holding up each other. They were busy suing each other, all kinds of things. That now is about to change. In terms of and I am fully convinced that as a leader, I will be able to help move that forward in a way that doesn't feel like a failure. Number 2, you'd have a chicken and egg with your PD and your stalling, because you don't know that a project's going to stall until you pass the PD. So you can't say that you shouldn't have PDs when something stalls, because you can't start it. You see what I'm saying, Soraya, in terms of that question? The bigger question is PDs and understanding that we have probably at least now, we have well over 1,000 PDs, and within districts, we probably have 3,000 in the city of Dallas, which means we have a lot of small little zoning areas. So your bigger question is about big block zoning, and I think that's where form-based zoning goes.
That's time.
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, thank you. And next up is Candy. Candy, do you need me to repeat the question?
You may have to get me back on track. I believe you're asking why Valley View Midtown has taken such a long time. Yes. I mean, yes. And then, so Janie said that there were a lot of people involved. True, but we also had a city councilman who was very divisive for 8 years, where Linda Coop put this together, and then Lee came on in 2013. And this is a man who thrives on divisiveness. And I know the developers, I've talked to them many times. Lee refused to city funds for the infrastructure that was needed. He made it so that the developers coming in had to pay for the offsite infrastructure like the sewers and all that. And they just finished putting sewers in. So you're going to change your zoning at Midtown now. You're going to have, residential there, higher density. You're going to need to have bigger sewers coming in than you did with a bunch of department stores were coming and going. And that didn't happen. We didn't have the right leadership. And I don't know how much Janie was involved in that, being on the Plan Commission, but it didn't happen. I don't see that you were uniting all these people. That is the job of the council person, to get everyone to work together. And yes, now there have been some sales have gone through, and there's, I think, some better cohesiveness, and there's some excitement, and I think we will see something happen. But I think that you really need to have a leader in District 11 who understands how to get people to work together, doesn't fight the police, doesn't fight the developers, doesn't believe in, no bond programs, which is another thing. And I think that you can have someone who really wants to help bring in new business, which I want to do. And I'm very excited about the possibility for Valley View turning into Midtown. I think it's going to be a show place. I see Dallas as having 3 fabulous show places: Midtown, Valley View, uptown, downtown, and eventually Fair Park, where people will want to go spend money, maybe even, have hotels and of course, living there. I think that where we've missed the boat in this is bad leadership at the city, lack of cooperation, the strings that are attached, the difficulty in getting anything done in this city as far as what goes on in the building. That's a problem. That's been the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Kasana?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't think the mall is stalled either. I think that the last I heard of it, especially last month, they're planning to go vertical by the end of the year. I think it's an eyesore. It's one of the things that people talk about the most. The construction is an eyesore, and I completely agree, but it's a big development, and it's going to take a while. That being said, I think that there's a few things to criticize about Valley View, and that's the fact that we're not going to see affordable development at Valley View, much like what the Dallas way has been for a long time, which is luxury development, luxury development, luxury development, luxury development. There's a lot of working class communities around Valley View Mall who are going to be pushed out because of this development. I don't think we did enough to protect them. I think that the failure on the side of city leadership here is by not being able to put affordable units in this area. It's not being Kleinman not being able to work with developers enough to put affordable units in that area. I think we can criticize past leadership for that work and still commend them for the fact that, just as JD mentioned, this is a 500-man job and it's quite difficult to corral that many people to be able to do something cohesively, right? So yeah, the thing that really concerns me about Valley View is that. And just like Janie mentioned, I think that it's not really a problem about if we can somehow psychically tell whether a PD is going to stall or not. I think that we just do it and then we see what happens and then we deal with the repercussions and we try to do it while protecting working families, while protecting Dallasites that are already here and bringing new exciting development into our districts. And that's really important, that we're not just encouraging luxury development, which is what happened here. So those are my thoughts on Valley View.
Thank you so much, Asana. Kick it back to my colleague, Mark.
Thank you so much. So now we're going to move on to public safety. Quote, back the blue, defund the police, fund the communities, reimagine public safety. There are any number of slogans that all speak to one core sentiment. Many people in Dallas feel that we need new approaches to addressing crime and inequality in our neighborhoods. What are your specific budget priorities for public safety? Also, what changes would you propose and how will those ideas improve public safety in District 11? Please try to be as specific as possible. Thank you. And we're going to start with Hosanna on this one.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, I think we need to make a robust investment in public safety in a way that we haven't done in the city before. And that means that we need to realize that PD themselves keep coming back to us every year and saying they're overburdened, they're stretched too thin, because we have decided that the only way to respond to violence in our city is by throwing money at it. And the most important thing that we need to do is understand that we need actual solutions to solve the violence of homelessness. We need to solve the violence of poverty. We need to solve the violence of mental health issues. And we cannot do that simply by policing and criminalizing them, right? So I think it's really important that we're expanding mental health resources, that we're expanding deeply affordable housing to make sure people are housed. I think it's important that we are responding to things like to traffic in a way that actually makes sense and doesn't waste taxpayer money. I know one of the things that we did, and I think it's 2017, we moved parking from the purview of DPD and into traffic enforcement, which is a common sense thing to do. We should ensure that every 911 call is being answered on time and efficiently in a way that actually keeps the community safe, right? Most of the time when we talk about public safety, we are only thinking about officers, but I think it's really important to think about what are the grievances that are coming from the community. Do communities feel over-policed? Yes, they do. Do communities of color specifically feel over-policed? Yes, they do. It is our responsibilities incumbent on us to ensure that we are responding proactively to that instead of just demonizing whatever it is that people think we're trying to do with this, right? So expand mental health care services, policing out of, for example, stuff like homeless sweep encampments or encampment sweeping, make sure that we're responding to the root causes of violence in our city instead of just throwing police and officers at it, and expand actual public safety in our city by doing so.
Thank you so much. We'll go to Candace next.
My helper's here. This is a huge issue. Yesterday, Janie and I think was there too. We got to hear our new police chief talk about the problems and solutions that he sees for the city. And I asked this question because I knew this was going to be a significant part of it, is morale. What are you doing for morale with the police? Because it's very hard to hire police in the city of Dallas. Very hard to hire police in the city of Dallas when you don't have morale. You have, again, a councilman for 8 years who's been harping and picking on police and telling them how horrible they are, telling them they earn too much money, trying to take their pension away. We cannot hire police. Like he said, you know, you're looking at hiring police in the city of Dallas, and they're competing with San Antonio, Houston, Austin. It's a competition. They're going to go where the best place is to get the best job. I think that we have to go back to community policing. I'm very big on that. I'm very big on hiring minority police to match different communities so they know what's going on there, how these people feel. Perhaps even they live there, grown up and lived there, and come back. I think Hattie said she wants to be a policeman when she grows up, so I'm all excited about that. But I think that we have to realize that we need public safety in this area. Our crime has gone up tremendously in District 11. We had, of course, a horrible murder here on May 25th of last year. And this woman was murdered in her driveway, a friend of mine, a neighbor. We have break-ins. I was just out today and saw police come to a store because there was a disturbance. And, you know, I think we need more police on the street, unfortunately, until we get things under control. We do have to have the homeless is a whole nother issue, but that has contributed tremendously to the crime that we're seeing. And so, yes, we have to have a program for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm about to ask the last
Well,
question of.
we actually still need Ms. Schultz to respond.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So sorry.
No worries at all. First of all, what I want to make sure of is that we work closely as a council with the new chief. The new chief, in my opinion, should be setting metrics, and we as the council ought to be measuring those metrics, doing course corrections as needed. I do not think it's the council's job necessarily to be saying specifically what the police department should be doing. That being said, what we do need to do is make sure that we're putting in the resources to hire the officers that are needed. We're desperately short. And those officers want to be part of the community. They want to do those things. And I think the more relationships that we have between communities and the police will be better, and especially in District 11. I actually want to use the rest of my time, if I may, to clarify one thing about affordable housing and value. And that is that we actually have a requirement for affordable housing of a 10% requirement from anyone who takes the TIF money. And in addition, we have 4 properties that are under state laws that are going to grow and expand their affordable housing. So this is not going to be a luxury only development. It is by design mixed income. And I am going to make sure that we keep it that way, because what we also know economically is that mixed income communities are stronger economically as well. So I will end there. Thank you.
Thank you, Janie. I apologize for that, by the way, Janie. We've got one more question during this moderated portion, and then we're going to try to have time for a couple of questions. I am mindful of everybody's time. I understand a couple of people have to leave early. So I'm going to ask the last question because we've been asking some pretty heavy ones tonight. So I wanted to make sure that we ended something with a little, make sure we ended something on a fun note. So I'm going to ask this question to Janie first, then Candy, and then Hosanna. And that is, what is your favorite Dallas landmark or secluded spot? And specifically, why is this place symbolic and important to you? Go ahead, Janie.
Wow. In all of Dallas, for a secluded spot, I'd have to go with White Rock. I'd have to go with White Rock, and I'd have to go with probably pulling over in the corner at Keller's and having a beer there. In District 11, for sure, my favorite spot right now is Goldmark Cultural Center.
Thank you, Janie. Candy?
Oh boy, there's so many of them. Well, I love our North Haven Trail. I love Fretz Park. I do love White Rock Lake, and I think my daughter rode there. I'm not sure if it was there or Bachman. I think she rode some at White Rock. But where does that area? Is it Bunker Hill where you can hike? I think my husband and I practiced hiking there before our trip to West Texas. So I think that's kind of my favorite spot because you can get lost there and you don't realize that you're in Dallas anymore. There's so much natural beauty around you, which I think is one of the best things about Dallas. One of the things that made me fall in love with it when we moved here is that everywhere you look, there's so much natural beauty. There's large yards, there's trees, there's green spaces, and it's so wonderful to get lost in those. And I think that that's something we need to definitely keep and preserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Candy. And Hassana, wrapping it up.
So when I was younger, I tried this app that was called, it's like a geocaching, right? Somebody hides something and then you have to go find it using your phone. It's very difficult to get lost in Fretz Park because it's not that big. But I got lost in Fretz Park geocaching and just sat in a corner and cried by myself until someone found me. Well, I think that that's probably my favorite place because I still think Fretz is really an amazing place, and that would be my favorite landmark. As far as a hidden treasure in District 11, there's a restaurant called Chris and John. It is a Vietnamese Mexican fusion restaurant, which is owned by a Vietnamese and Mexican couple, and they make amazing food. It's off of Montfort Road, and I would highly recommend everyone try it because they have the most amazing like burrito concoctions that I would have never thought of eating if I didn't try it there.
Thank you so much.
All right.
That was really special. Go ahead, Mark.
Sorry. So yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. We're now going to move on to the second segment. And this is where we open up to audience questions. And we got some great questions from the audience. And just to be clear, here are the rules for this segment. Audience, keep your questions brief so we can get to as many as possible. There's not going to be any follow-ups, and candidates have 2 minutes to respond. After you ask your question, please go ahead and mute yourself and let the candidates take it from there. First question. Oh, sorry. First question is going to be from Eddie Morgan. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you haven't already. Eddie would like to ask a question. Eddie, you there? If he's not able to ask,
okay, yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Being a voter and renter for 35 years, how can you help me with affordable rental housing? I'm not talking about tax relief. I'm talking about people that rent houses.
Thank you, Eddie.
So how can we keep rental properties affordable in District 11? We'll go ahead and start with Janie.
Mr. Morgan, that is the question of the night for sure, because as property values continue to go up, prices everywhere are going to continue to go up. So we don't have any assurances in the city of Dallas to control rent. I don't believe that we should. The challenge is making sure that you have the opportunity to stay where you are. And I don't have an answer for you on that. I don't, I'm sorry.
Can I try? I think that I agree with Janie. This is very hard as land values go up. Dallas is becoming more desirable. North Dallas, District 11, the land values becoming more desirable. So land values are going up. But what we can do is we perhaps can look at, again, when we do developments like Midtown or any developments, we can get developers to set aside a certain amount of housing at a certain rate that is affordable for people who are on either fixed incomes or earning $60,000 or less a year. Or I think we can look at programs where we can lock in rents perhaps for some people, especially if they're over 65. I don't know if that applies to you, or if they're disabled. I think that we can look into all of those things to maybe freeze rents and certainly freeze tax rates as well.
Thank you,
Um,
Osana.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is difficult, but it's kind of what Janie mentioned. We don't have rent control legislation in the state of Texas. I do think that we should have rent control legislation in the state of Texas. I think that's really important to stabilize ownership and or rentership throughout our city. I think something else we should be looking at is kind of the response to how when rents rise and people are starting to get evicted from their homes or displaced from their homes. I think we should have a standing eviction assistance fund, especially to help folks to have representation in eviction court whenever they do have to go through an eviction process. I think whenever an apartment complex is getting sold off to luxury development, tenants should have the opportunity to purchase the property before it gets sold off to luxury developers. I think tenant unionizing is really important as well, to hold developers accountable. And I think we need to really hold the line on luxury development, to be honest, to keep affordability in our neighborhoods.
Thank you, Hosanna. Is A. Weber still on? A.
I
Weber?
believe, I believe Taryn's going to ask this
Oh,
one.
thank you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. The question is, we would like to know if any of you have any ideas on how to make the homelessness situation better. As some of you know, the eviction moratorium is not going to be enforced in Texas going forward, and there are a lot of people, given the pandemic, that are going to need help and that are probably going to be displaced from their homes. So how do we help these people, both the newly homeless and the chronically homeless, get the help and the housing that they need? Thank you.
I'd love to start if that's possible for this one. I think a couple of things for folks that are really struggling with COVID. I think, whenever we do get additional federal aid, it's really important that we are allocating robust amount of that funding towards rental assistance, towards mortgage assistance, towards small business assistance, including our artists and artist venues that are really struggling at this time. I think that's number one. Number two is we need to understand that the only solution to homelessness is a housing first approach. There's really nothing else that works. I think moving unhoused people from one corner to another corner doesn't do anything to actually solve the issue of people not having homes. So we need to build permanent supportive housing or purchase permanent supportive housing, transitionary housing with wraparound services, mental health services, addiction services, and we need to remove the barriers of entry into housing. If people feel like they cannot be who they are in supportive housing, they're not going to accept it. So it's really important that we also have actual community work happening, just like any other person, just like any person who is a home. Homeless populations also have different problems that they're dealing with, and so I don't think it's incumbent. It is incumbent on us to ensure that we're doing everything that we can to build relationships with homeless communities, to house them when they refuse housing in the long term. So permanent supportive housing, using COVID aid appropriately to provide as much aid as possible, and ensuring that we actually do have those wraparound services for people that are experiencing chronic homelessness.
Thank you. Janie, you want to go ahead and try this one?
Yeah, I do. And then I've got time for one more after this.
Great.
Okay?
That's what I was hoping. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Yes. So District 11 is actually making great strides in this area. One is through the new St. Jude Center, which will house 190 people in permanent supportive housing. And I think we can definitely look for more locations for that kind of institutional partnership that the city and the county can have with our nonprofits who are providing these excellent services. I also think that we can work very closely with the business community and the apartment community to make sure that that they understand. I mean, look, the highest expense for an apartment owner is turnover. So they don't want people to leave either. And so I do believe that this is not an area that there's going to be mass. We haven't seen it, and I don't think we're going to see mass evictions. We're going to be able to work with our property owners to help people stay in their homes.
I would agree that with Janie on that most landlords do not want to see people leave, and they really want to work with them. In fact, I was at a meeting not too long ago with a group of landlords, and they absolutely said that they would rather work with people than evict them because it's not a smooth process. I do think the federal funds that come in should be used for that. I'm sorry that we don't have more protection. I'm very concerned about the evictions coming up too. But again, I'm just hoping the goodness of these landlords that they're going to, work with people to the best of their ability. Maybe, everyone has to work together on that because of course the landlords, they have expenses too, which is another thing we need to look at the other side of that. If you're going to, say, we're going to hold off on evictions, you have to let these people live here without paying rent for a while. Well, then maybe we do something to help the landlords out too, so they can continue that process. Again, this is all that can be done with federal funds. Hosanna, you said something that I thought was really, really wonderful. Oh, about the permanent housing for the homeless. And again, St. Jude is one thing. I know they're just getting St. Jude going. I wish it could be faster, but I know we just bought it. And there's another one also, I believe, in South Dallas, another hotel. And this is a great way to find housing. I do believe we owe it to the homeless people to give them a place to live where they can have the wraparound services that'll take them out. And there may be some, unfortunately, who cannot get out of that. And they need to have a place where they have, cleanliness, some counseling, if it's drug counseling or just getting on with life, and a healthful place to be and not be on the street. So I'm hoping that we can maybe do some more of those hotels that we can turn into help and home, a shelter for the homeless, or maybe even a temporary housing for them until they do get into the situation where they can get into employment and pay their own rent and be on their own. So I hope we can do more of that.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to the next one. It's going to be coming from Millie Domenech. Millie, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. My question is for all the candidates, but it's specific to Ms. Evans. I wanted to give you a chance to clarify. It sounded like in one of your answers, you said something about how not everyone should have a home and that only a house qualifies as a home. And I am a lifelong apartment dweller. And I would say that my family and I very much consider this to be our home. Do I take your answer to mean that renters' rights would not be at the top of your list of concerns if you are on city council? Thank you.
No,
So,
can I answer that?
Yeah, we'll definitely start with you. We're going to give everyone a chance, even though it's directed at you. We're obviously going to start with you, but everyone's going to have a chance to respond to that. Go ahead.
I'm glad I can clarify that. What I meant was that a house is not necessarily the answer for everyone to have as a home. Many people can live in apartments or other alternative forms of dwellings as long as it's a shelter and it's fine. A house it requires a lot of maintenance, and too often I think the problem is that we tend to think that every single person needs to be in a home with a driveway and a garage and a backyard and trees and all that stuff. I mean, it's a great image, right? But no, you're absolutely right. People can live in apartments and grow up and have fabulous lives and very rich lives because they don't have to do all the maintenance that's involved in a home. So that's what I was saying. Does that clarify it for you?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Well, let's go ahead again. Even though that was directed at one person, we're going to let everyone else answer that. So let's go ahead and go on to you, Janie, if you have any response to that question.
No, I don't have anything else to add to my previous point about that. Every kind of housing is certainly a home, can be a home.
Thank you. And Hosanna?
Yeah, I will say I'm a renter. 60% of our city are renters. And I think renters' rights and tenants' rights are actually very, very important. And we deserve to have more renters on our council so that we can help other renters.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Hosanna. I know that Ms. Schultz has to leave, and I just want to be so thankful for everybody's time. Ms. Schultz, we were going to give everybody 1 minute for a closing statement. You're certainly welcome to take advantage of it and be first up if you'd like.
That's very kind of you, and I appreciate it very much. I appreciate your timing on this very much. Yes, I just want to close by saying that it's obvious that I have two worthy opponents who are smart women, and it's exciting to see that in District 11. And I, as the person that is the most qualified and ready to go on this, I know that I can have. I hope I can have your support. And I intend to work with everyone who wants to be involved, because that's my style, is to be collaborative and inclusive. So I will always be open to everybody's ideas and thoughts. And Reform Dallas is actually a true and very, very important thought leader in our community. I've been following it from the beginning, participating a little bit, and I will absolutely be turning to you all as a leader for your insight, as I've learned so much tonight. Thank you.
Great to hear, Janie. Thank you so much. Hasana, 1 minute for final statement.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Reform Dallas, I think it's amazing, and introduced me to my first time at Lakewood Landing, which I really missed. So hopefully we'll be back soon at Lakewood Landing and Corny Dogs. So thank you so much for putting this together. I think it's really important to have a council that is representative of our city. I think it's really important that if we're going to be discussing the issues that affect working class communities, poor communities, working and communities of color all the time, that we need to have those people on council as well. I think we need more organizers, more nurses, more teachers, just more regular folks on our council to be able to advocate for us, because I think you need to be doing this work because it is necessary work to build the world and the city that we deserve to live in, and not just work that is going to be done because it's convenient to do so. So thank you so much for creating this space. I look really forward to fighting for all of us on the council in the future.
Thank you, Hasana. And Candy, you want to close us out there with 1 minute?
Yes, and let me clarify about the renters again. Do you know that renters actually pay more in property taxes than homeowners do? So absolutely, they should totally have as much say so as homeowners. It's all real estate, right? Yes, I am very excited about the future of Dallas, and I think we're sitting at a crossroads now. And that's why I'm running this year. Of course, I ran 4 years ago. I always planned on running this year when the seat was open. I do think that we should have more representation on council of everyone in Dallas. And that's why I think that I feel this is a year to look at a fresh breath, an outsider, not really an outsider. We've lived here for 41 years, but I do have a background. I came from Chicago. I wasn't born here. I'm not a member, I don't know everyone. I didn't go to high school with everyone who's, down the street from me, but we definitely need fresh ideas. And I intend to bring those to the council and to the city, and to have as much inclusiveness as absolutely possible. That's what I'm all about. And I thank you so much for having this beautiful forum.
Thank you, Candy. And that concludes the District 11 City Council Candidate Forum from Reform Dallas. The recording will be available on reformdallas.io, where we also have a comprehensive election guide with resources on all of the candidates. We would like to thank the candidates, audience, and members of Reform Dallas for participating tonight. Please remember that municipal elections are May 1st and early voting begins April 18th. We're going to be shutting off the recording here right after the forum ends, but please stay on after the Zoom meeting because the forum for the DISD District 9 starts in just a few minutes at 8:30. And don't forget, after that, we'll be staying on for just a little bit while longer for an after hours whiskey and politics for discussion about all things Dallas. We hope you stay for that because it's a lot of fun. And again, thank you all very much.